Hi everyone, here's a look at the Pro Mazda at Daytona International Speedway road course. Now I've actually found the exit out of the last chicane doesn't matter so much because there's enough straight to pick up to maximum speed anyway, so just get a good run and run down the straight. You should be right for turn 1. Still going down the straight. Now turn 1's I think probably the hardest corner to consistently find the limit. You want to turn in and kind of in a straight line brake towards this outside white line there. You want to bring the car out towards that white line, then pivot it back in towards the apex. So we're braking in a straight line here, gradually easing off the brake. Now I'm touching the outside white line with my front right wheel, and you turn your attention at that point down to this inside apex here. Now you want to bring the car in there, still in third, carrying as much momentum as you can. Get as close to that inside white line. And carry the momentum out, get hard back on the throttle. Now you don't want to go over this curb. This will destroy the car. It launches it up in the air and gives it floor damage. So just bring the front right wheel close and onto that curb and do the same for this left hand curbing until you get out. Through there you've just got to build up to the limit. It feels very unnatural to brake horizontally across the track like that, and there's no real clear braking marker like you brake here. You're sort of braking after you've turned in, so it's an awkward corner, and if you run a little bit wide you can be off into the grass or into the wall. So this is a track you just have to gradually build up to it. It'll feel like you're driving over the limit to start with, and as you just get more and more used to it, it'll start to become easier and easier. Now here again, there's not really a particular braking point here that I find I use. I'm just sort of braking in the middle of the cones. But there is two ways to take the corner. You can brake deep, cut back, kind of open up the corner, then get a good run out. Or you can brake a little bit early and bring it into the apex a little bit more. Depending on how well I slow the car, I kind of can take two different lines here. I think bringing it into an early apex is probably more optimal. But if you do happen to overshoot the braking line, you can just V-shape the corner and get a good exit. So here I'm braking hard, bringing it into and onto this right-hand curbing here. Then getting hard on the throttle to push it out wide. And you want to use all the available run-off track, as that gets you the best exit. Now another thing you want to do in these corners is you want to kind of unsettle the rear a little bit by trail braking. It just helps to rotate it and get into that tight apex. So under braking here, I'm still on the brakes at a decent amount. So I've got about half braking force on, but I've got the car turned. This will typically bring the weight shift forward and get you that little bit more front grip into the corner. And it's quite a while after I've got a lot of steering lock on that I come completely off the brakes. Now just flat out through here. Sort of the same approach in this corner as the last one really. You're braking after the cones finish on the left and you want to get it into a tight apex. Again, you'll be wanting to trail brake in, so steering lock on while brake pressure is reduced. And that'll give you a bit more front grip. You want to get up on that inside curb a little bit, then harden the throttle the second you pass the apex and use all the outside track. Because the corners go on for so long and you, particularly on a single screen, the outside of the track isn't visible when you're at the initial apex. It does take a bit of time just to feel when to get back on the throttle, but again, it does become more natural. Now you're wanting to go up in the fifth here, and then harden the brakes. Now what you're aiming for on entry here is this inside curving. You're wanting to brake hard and again kind of move the car in while it's on the brakes and get it into that inside curbing and nail the throttle. So trail braking again just to get it shifted, we're in on the inside curbing, and then you're getting hard throttle. Now the car's not completely turned, but you're wanting to carry the momentum around that outside apex and back onto this straight, as the momentum will carry down the back straight a little bit. And another important thing to note is you don't want to mess up your braking too much here. If you're a little bit too late on the brakes, there's a wall waiting for you just past the apex to end your race. Now you're just keeping it fairly tight to the inside part of the track. The other thing that you can do around here, and I don't actually recommend doing this, but I have seen people doing it, is if you drive down that, it's a massive cut. It's like a cut track. Now, and it is a reduction in time, but it's against the rules. It's driving outside the yellow lines. And I'm not sure how iRacing exactly is going to police it this week, but it's something as a community we're going to have to stop people doing, because they'll be getting an unfair track advantage doing it. And in the races, if people do it, it's absolutely going to be protestable. Now coming up here, you just want to brake a little bit before the one. Now what you want to do here is as you're coming down this section here, you want to actually take your focus away from the braking marker into the apex, because if you're looking at the braking marker and turning in, it's a bit harder to judge where the apex is. So I'm getting to the one, down one gear, but you're looking at the inside apex as you turn in. Don't really worry about the braking marker. Just realize you get near it, then brake, down a gear and into the apex. Grab a second downshift after that first apex and bring the car tight through here, then harden the throttle to exit. Now there's a very fine line between a 1x and no 1x there. I didn't get one on this lap, but like it was pretty close, I'm fairly sure. You do kind of have to push the track limits of what's the track and what's the grass. I got quite lucky there actually not to get one. But I think the real challenge of this track won't be what you can do after 26 laps of a practice session. It'll be how quickly you can go out there and deliver that limit in a qualifying session or in a race consistently, that will win you races. Again here, drive up on the bank section, don't cut down on the track. People will protest if you're doing it. Just hold it tight. Actually, I'll show this in full speed again. It's actually quite an impressive corner set once you get the hang of it. You don't want to go blazing too hard in there, it's hard to get back to the second apex. Just running the car tight along the inside line. I have seen people in practice sessions going up and cutting back down. I don't really know ovals, so I don't do it, but I've found the quickest way is just to stick tight to that yellow line without going over it. As it reduces track distance that way. That's a lap. That was a 46.6, which took quite a bit of working up to. Maybe a little bit left in it, but for demonstration's sake, I was happy enough with that lap. And here's a lap in fast motion. Let's actually get a bit closer to the start of it.